Welcome one, welcome all. We get a Nashville super speedway tonight, and it's actually provided some really fun racing. Yesterday's Xfinity race was decent. The trucks race on Friday night was decent. It's been a good watch overall, but it's been a good time, and we've been a week without the Cup Series, so we get Stats to join us another Sunday of NASCAR racing, and this time Kyle Larson is not trying to do the double. Which I'm grateful for after getting completely burned by him last time. How are you doing, Stats?
I'm doing well, man. Yeah, and it was very disappointing. He didn't get it. He didn't get either one of them to finish.
No, he did not. And it was funny because I think we had Chip Ganassi Racing was something that Bryce posted into the chat, and I actually had Paolo to win the Indy 500. And as soon as the caution started, you maybe Kyle Larson won't do the full 600, right? Or the full 500, and then have to dip to the Charlotte early. He wrecks there. You're like, okay, you know what? He's fully focused for the Coca-Cola 600. Wrecks on his own there. Wrecks on his own twice in a row. Max Verstappen would never. Max Verstappen would at least take someone down with him. I'm sorry, he did that today. He intentionally wrecked into someone on the 3 laps to go stats because he was angry, and it was some of the best F1 stuff you'll see of all time. But in reality, though,
you don't get a lot of that in F1. It's more in NASCAR. You see that.
Well, the funny part was it wasn't his fault that he got hit the first time, and his team was telling him to give the position to the guy he hates, which is George Russell. And in retaliation, he lets him through and then slams his car into him. And, all hell broke loose. He got a 10-second time penalty. He was cursing over the mic and stuff. Great theater. If you wanted to check it out, the last 5 laps of the F1 race will tell you the whole story. But in this one, right, I'm swearing off Larson last week. I'm like, screw Larson. When he makes mistakes, he always makes mistakes at 60% ownership, right? I'm done playing Larson. Then I see him starting 28th. I immediately become a man walking back on my own word, right? Where I don't know what to do. Stats, right? We get a Larson at 28th. He's got one of the best odds to win. Not as good as Denny, which Denny Hamlin's situation that we'll get to here in a little bit, but he might not even race tonight. He might not even complete the race tonight because he is due to have a child. I think, that could happen at any minute, it sounds like, right, Stats?
Yeah, I believe she's due today. This is his longtime girlfriend is due to have a child here. So what he has said is if the baby is coming before the race, he will leave. But once he starts, he's going to finish. So That's what I'm hearing.
Okay, I'm surprised that he is even going to start it. It depends on how close it is. There's something they kind of monitor. The last thing I want is to play the race favorite, Denny Hamlin, who is plus 400 to win on DraftKings Sportsbook, and then watch him get out of his car after leading the first.
I believe we got to double check this. I believe if he starts the race, he gets all the points, even if Truex jumps in the car.
You would be right, because it was what was the situation last year with Kyle Larson showing up late? He was not eligible to be scored because he did not start the race. Is Ryan Truex as good as Denny Hamlin?
No.
That's food for thought there. Some other studs too. I think this is important to note. Toyotas thrive here for the most part. They have thrived here in the past. Christopher Bell is going to be another good option. You're going to have other guys too, like Tyler Reddick starting fourth. You have a lot of top. Well, starting positions kind of inside the top 15, top 10 for the most part, except for Larson. Larson's kind of the odd one out here. Almost all the studs that you play are going to be, Dom upside early. Kyle Larson's the only one who provides a little bit of PD mix there above 9K. I mean, I looked through this list here. I'm kind of committed to the Toyotas plus a Larson, right? That's kind of my mindset going into this one. Stats, what are you doing today?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. When I'm looking at it, it's seeing a lot of the higher salary guys seem to be pretty strong plays. And like you said, we've got most of those guys are kind of starting near the front. But then when you get a Larson starting 28th, he should be the highest to own on this slate. And I just think, I think I said it last week with Chastain would be a lock button. I think you'd almost want a lock button in a Larson starting 28. I mean, when you see, we didn't really get the details here about the track, but this is an intermediate track. It's not a mile and a half quite. I believe it's 1.33. We're going to get 300 laps here. This is a race. And then if you recall last year's race, we had 5 OTs last year, 5 overtime. So that really changed the basically how this race finished. We wound up with Logano winning the race last year after those five overtimes. So you may get a little, like, if we go back and look at the history from last year, maybe a little misleading just based on the fact that some of these guys, the position changed quite a bit from where they were. You had like Denny Hamlin was leading that race at the end of regulation, winds up finishing 12th. So we got to kind of take the finish positions of last year with a grain of salt. But yeah, I don't know if you could get the guy who's probably the best driver in the world, who has one of the best or the best driver rating on intermediate tracks by far this season in Kyle Larson, getting him starting 28th. To me, I know the practice times weren't very good. It's Kyle Larson. He's got to move up. Now he's going to have to move up quite a bit to justify the $11K salary. But yeah, I think for me, I'm always looking for that one lock button guy, especially like in a 20 max situation. I hate for it to be the 11K guy. It was a little easier to do with Chastain last week, but I think it's Larson this week.
So can I play devil's advocate real quick with you, right? Yeah. I'm going to do this because I think it's important to note, because I'm kind of in the same boat, stats, where I'm like kind of really debating on Kyle Larson. Last year, starts 4th, right? No laps led, right? And so this is one of those things where, not everything tells a story, but here's how many laps were led in that. There's 331 laps. Like Blaney led 26, Reddick led 16, Chastain 45, McDowell 31, Christopher Bell 131, Denny Hamlin 70. Like you had a large mix of guys kind of lead laps in that race, right? And if you go back to 2023, what's the theme again? Kyle Larson starts inside the top 10, no laps led. And, obviously I don't have the fastest laps data right in front of me. The race is tonight, but I just wonder stats. And this is like, I'm coming back to it because I'm kind of, after what I said last week and stuff, just talking to like my friend and stuff, it's like, how many times can I play Larson at high ownership? He's going to be super high owned again today. And in reality, like, can he get the Dom points? I said that about Denny Hamlin. What did Denny Hamlin do? Well, he domed, right? So like, I'm not always going to be right. I'm not, or anything like that. But it's also to the point where the last 2 years, Larson at this track has kind of underperformed, right? And starting 28th, it's great PD play. But I still think he needs the lead laps to get there, because I think there is going to be at least 2 drivers who lead 50 laps plus. And those guys are probably going to be one of the Toyotas up here. I mean, hell, you could even throw in Byron, Chastain, Blaney, all those guys there have had led laps here before. Logano, I mean, the winner of last year's race. Not that he domed much, but it's like, I almost don't want to commit to a top driver up here, because I do want to spread it out equally. And Larson might even be like the odd man out. And the thing is, like, we all know how good he is at intermediate. So it is kind of going against the grain in that regard. But I think I'm going to be opting for the Toyotas more so. Like, I think I'd rather have more Christopher Bell, more Denny Hamlin, more Ross Chastain here over a lock button of Kyle Larson. I think I still might mix in Larson, but I'm definitely going to be under the field tonight. But that's me playing devil's advocate. Like, I do think I'm going to be under the field, but it's like the last 2 years, he has just not done much here. And that's where I keep coming to.
What's the field? That's the question. So we don't have Sabre guidance yet, because this race is not until late tonight. So we'll get Sabre updates later. But where do you think the field comes in here?
I think 45. That's the number here. I think 45% because of the PD boost, right? Because of the name recognition. I don't think he eclipses 50. I always talk about this, right? Where it's like, if someone leaves a sour taste in your mouth, right? Like, you don't want to go back to him. But like, Kyle Larson was mega chalk last week, Rex. I think that kind of diminishes ownership just slightly. But I think, like, if you would have asked me this, like, last week, if he didn't wreck, 50% plus, this time I'm going under 50% here.
I think 50 is the over-under. So you're going to take the under. I think he's right around 50 with a 28 starting position. You talked about having to get Dom points. Look at last year's race where Christopher Bell dominates that race, 131 laps led, and then Rex late winds up not optimal and kind of took away a lot of the Dom points from everyone else. So it became a really interesting race. I think historically here, we see a lot more PD. There's not like we tend to get the Dom points kind of spread out a little bit.
Yeah.
So we have to look for some good, and there's always going to be some good PD plays typically, and there are some here today. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Larson at that price tag. Yeah, it's going to take more. I mean, it's going to obviously take a really strong finish. His odds are not where you would expect the Larson. So that's also one thing that kind of that does give you a little bit of pause. He's at plus, I mean, some places plus 900. You can get plus 850 right now at Caesars. As if you're looking to bet Larson, that would be the best price. Bet MGM's all the way down to plus 550 with DraftKings right in the middle there, kind of at plus 750. So it's he's not the typical favorite like he normally would be on these type of races. So there's a few guys ahead of him. Like you mentioned, I think Denny Hamlin is the favorite in this race. Ross Chastain, shorter prices. Reddick has a shorter price at most books than Larson, or, it's kind of flip, depends on the book, but they're all really close, and Bell's right there as well. So I think that starting position is maybe causing the betting markets to not get behind Larson. So he's going to need I would say you're probably right. He's going to have to dominate. It doesn't have to be 50, 60 laps. He probably needs a few points in there dom-wise, and at least a top 5, I would imagine. And then it's going to have to coincide with what some of these other high-priced guys do as far as dom. So if we spread the doms out, that's going to be a lot better for Larson. And I think you do have the potential at this track to kind of spread out those dom points. So that's why I do like Larson a bit more, and I'm probably going to be over. I assume I'll be over on the market depending on where this ownership comes in. If it's 45 to 50%, I'm going to be higher than that. And like I said, if I'm looking for that one lock button, I think I would just do it with Larson this week.
It's a really good point too, Stats. Like, I know you brought it up, talking about Denny Hamlin to start the show, right? But like that Kyle Larson ownership, well, what if we get Hamlin's not going to race, right? Well, that would immediately, I think Larson would soak up closer to 60% at that point, right? And yeah, it is tough to gauge on him where he's going to come in for cash games. Hamlin in this sense too. If he starts a race and he said he's going to finish it, I think he's going to be a man of his word. Not that I'm in for perfect stories, but you win on the day that your kid is born. I mean, that's pretty epic. I can already see the headlines.
Well, look, so the other thing that you have to keep in mind, if he does, while we're on the show right here, if the baby's coming and he's out, they'll move Truex to the back.
Yep.
So we're not really concerned with as far as Truex, but what does that do to everyone else? So now it gives, because Denny's obviously going to be competing here for the lead at the gate, starting on the front row. What does that do? Does that make Briscoe a better option here, because you're going to remove one less competitor of these strong guys up at the top? You've got Byron right at the third spot. Now, I don't know. We got to double check. Do you know what happens? Do they just move everyone up? Does 3 move to 2?
No,
they move the row up, right?
The row. The
okay.
row. That's it. So yeah. So 4 becomes 2 at that point.
So 4 becomes 2, which is real interesting. So then, if that scenario does play out, now you've got Reddick starting on the front row against Briscoe. So I think that changes the ownership on these guys. So that's just something to keep in mind. If during the course of today we hear that Hamlin is out, it's going to bump the ownership on a couple of these guys up there, namely Reddick and Byron as well, I think, because of the fact that we'll be eliminating Denny from there. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, 100%. I do think the questionable tag, you don't see it often in NASCAR. It definitely will keep people just slightly away. As funny as that is, it's very funny to see the questionable tag in NASCAR. You make up a great point too, talking about Reddick and stuff. Like, I'm going to be over on all the Toyotas, right? Like, I think that at the end of the day, that's where I'm going to be. That's going to be Reddick, that's going to be Bell, that's going to be Hamlin, right? If anyone wants to play Hendrick, I'm not going to follow you, but the Toyotas have been like really good here over the last couple of years. And, you look last year, I mean, who led the most of the laps, right? It was Christopher Bell, but he wrecked out, right? 131 laps led. Denny Hamlin, 70 laps led. Like, they led a significant portion of this race. I'm committed to that. My next up would probably be Chastain. I mean, I think Larson, kind of unspoken, is going to be if I'm underweight on him, I'm still at 35%, right? Where he's going to be like just as high owned for me as the Toyotas, except for Hamlin and Bell, most likely, and Reddick. I guess all four of those, or three of those guys, will be 40% plus for me. Then Larson, then Chastain, and then I honestly think I don't think I want to go with Penske. Byron might make just a splash, but yeah, I mean, I don't think. I don't want the Fords today stats. I don't.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it. It the Toyotas do look to be the best. If you look at the betting markets, just on the teams that, if you look at the manufacturers, Chevy and Toyota are right with each other as the co-favorites. So
yeah,
in the betting markets, they're looking at that, and then I think a lot of that is you've got Hendrick is right behind JGR. So JGR is the favorite, and then Hendrick the second choice here. And obviously with Larson and Byron, they're gonna jack those the odds I guess down, but they're gonna be a big favorite with those two guys. But yeah, so I get it. Without a doubt, Toyota has been successful here and has run well. What the practice? Did that pan out in the practice? Because I mean, we had Byron was really good in practice. Denny was really good in practice. Reddick was the best in practice. So yeah, the Toyotas did look pretty good in the practices. Who else was good? Like obviously Briscoe on the pole. He was really good qualifying and in practice. So yeah, I mean the Toyotas historically have been good, and they look good this week. So I mean, yeah, we do want to be on them, but I'm not tossing Hendrick out here. With Byron. Byron is look. The problem we've had with Reddick, it's been kind of similar with Reddick and Byron. They've looked really good, and the finishes just haven't been as good. So if we just look at their finishes, maybe doesn't really tell the whole story about necessarily how good those cars and they have been on intermediate tracks so far this year. I mean, you saw Byron. I had Byron in my bets last week. That was a tad disappointing to lose that one, but that's kind of NASCAR, and so we'll see. So that's I think the early in the race, if things go the way they've been going, it's going to be real interesting to see who can get those early down points. It could be both Byron and Reddick, and they would be actually my favorites to dom this race early, especially if Denny is not there. But even with Denny in there, I kind of like both of those guys to get some to dominate this race. The way they've run, I think the cars are really good, and they just have not been able to finish. But that's not what we're concerned about here, as far as getting those early down points.
I like it. Let's move on to the mid-range here. This is a question by Logan. If Hamlin is out and Truex goes to the back, do you play him then? Truex would still be scored from second, I'm pretty sure.
Right. Yeah.
And he is in this mid-range, so we can just talk about it real quick. If Denny Hamlin was out, are you going to click on Truex at all? I think the answer to me would be no.
No, I would totally pass on that. I mean, because if you had Denny starting in the back, you'd have to give some pause there, and starting in the back with the being scored from the two spot. So yeah, I just don't see it. I know he'll have obviously the same equipment, but that would be a pass for me.
Shout out DK for getting ahead on the issue, including Ryan Truex into the pool.
That is good.
And also having the disclaimer at the top of every draft. If you open up your app and try and draft a NASCAR team, it tells you the rule. Like, hey, if he starts the race, it goes to the original driver, right? DK getting ahead of the ball in the NASCAR race tonight. That's what happens when there's no NBA, I guess. They really make sure they step up to the plate. But it is interesting. I mean, you go through this mid-range, and, Briscoe is a funny one. Stats like, I do like Reddick. I do want to get like the early dom. What are the odds that Briscoe doms at 8,900? I don't think he's going to be that popular. I'm going to guess 18, 15%. That's the range I'm kind of guessing where he's going to be at. And look, he's no slouch. Like he drives, a Toyota. Like he's got to think that he can stay up there. And I go back to yesterday, and I know it's completely different packages or whatever, but it's like, he crashed out at the end of the race, right? But it was William Sawalich, and William Sawalich led like the first part of that race. And I'm sitting there tilting my ass off, stats, because I X'd his ass out. I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is bold. And Williams Wallace stood up there and led a lot of laps. And it was ultimately like, hey, he could have had a chance. Is Briscoe cheap enough to do that? Get 10th? Is that cheap enough to potentially, be in the winner? How could he get a top 5 and lead laps? Like, what's your take on Briscoe first and foremost, and then dive into the rest of the mid-range that you like?
Yeah, I mean, he's been decent here at intermediate tracks. Obviously had a really good a good Saturday here with the qualifying. Practice times were really good. The 8,900, that's a question. And I think the talent around him certainly gives me a little bit of pause, because I think, where can he finish the race? I just don't think he wins this race. And now it becomes, how many Dom points can he get? I just don't I think 18 to 20% is probably about where I'd want to own him. So maybe if I'm at the market there, it's comfortable for me. I don't want to get too much higher than that. So I just think I don't know if he's going to be able to dom enough laps in this race to be in the winner. So you've got to have him. Look, you mentioned he's a Toyota. He's not just in Toyota. He's in a JGR. He's got the same team with Hamlin and Bell. So he should be fast. We've seen it. Obviously, all three of those guys were pretty fast over the weekend. So he's got a good car. Question is, can he hold off a Byron? Can he hold off Reddick? Can he hold off Denny if Denny's starting? I don't know. So I think 18. I'd be very comfortable in that 18 to 20%. I'm not going overweight. I just I don't see it. So that's where I would be. And I don't want to get too far under the market either, because there is definitely a non-zero probability that he just comes out and leads maybe 50 laps here and finishes top 5. It easily happen. And in that scenario, he is in the winner, no doubt. So, and you have to take into account now, if we're single building, do we want, are we going to want to have a Briscoe with either Byron or Hamlin or Bell or, do we want to have these guys, Reddick, or do we just want to have one of them? I think in a single build, if I've got Briscoe, I might just avoid those other guys and play all PD with it. If I was going that route in a single build, I might just do that. So I would have Larson with him. Like if I'm going to play Briscoe single build, I think it makes sense to have Larson and then look for some of these other really good place differential guys and just hope that, Briscoe obviously gets you those Dom points and takes those Dom points away from these other popular drivers.
I like that idea. I do think like you could pair maybe one with him, right? Like, or it'd be one Dom, but you would be hoping that, of these 300 laps, Briscoe might be able to get the first 100, right? Like, at least a decent chunk, 30% of this race where he is in the lead. And we saw, when I was going through who led laps last year, it wasn't just, 3 drivers. It was like 6 dudes, 7 dudes, and Larson wasn't one of them. But
no,
but it's one of those things where, like, if you're able to get enough DOMs from 2 guys and then get the PD for the rest, it does become a very interesting slate. Carson Hocevar starting 26th. Big T already has his rankings up. That is his number 1 guy in the mid-range, which I think I tend to agree with. Last week, he was looking like he could have won that race. Engine blew. It blew up. He's going to be a very popular click at 7,500. Other guys kind of here at the bottom, like Daniel Suarez, 6,900 starting, 32nd. That's going to be a popular PD play. Ty Gibbs. So where's our guy, Jake? Ty Gibbs day today. Ty Gibbs is finally starting in a spot that we can play in, right? That's what it is, stats, right? He is starting 22nd. He's not starting 11th. No, he's starting 22nd. We can click on Ty Gibbs' name today. The Crabs table's open. I said, I don't want to be on the pass line anymore. I said, I'm all over the numbers now. I got 5, I got 4, 5, 6, I got 8, 9, 10. I got the what do they call it? Dollar Yo on there and stuff. I got everything. I got it covered. The whole board is covered with Ty Gibbs today. He is actually going to be one of my favorite mid-tier plays. What a complete turn of events that we've had over the last couple months. I completely X'd him. Now I'm completely on board with Ty Gibbs here today. Josh Berry, I think he's going to be a decent click starting 20th. Got Bowman starting 24th. Kyle Busch starting 25th. Just a slew of guys starting in the mid-20s. And then, Suarez, Heim, Bubba Wallace starting 12th. I don't know if that's going to intrigue you at all, but there's another Toyota, right, where it's just like 23-11. What are you doing with the rest of this mid-range here?
This is where a lot of the quality is, I think, and a lot of pretty good value. So once you get past, like, you've got Buescher starting 10th, and then Keselowski starting 6th. Those guys are not going to be rostered all that high. Once you get below Keselowski, and then you get the Busch at 8K, I mean, really all the way down to Zane Smith at 6,300. I think all those guys get, not high ownership, but they're going to get attention. So you're looking at like 15 to 25% ownership on just about every one of these guys. I think just going to depend on really the start position is dictating a lot of it for most of these guys. I would agree with you. They're close. I think Hocevar might be the best option there. I might agree with T on this one, starting 26th. I thought he did. I thought he was going to win that race last week. I thought he had the best car. That was a shame for him to have the finish that he did. But yeah, I think he's going to garner some attention, no doubt, starting 26th. But we've got a lot of really good, place differential in this. So you've got Bowman starting 24th. You've got, like you mentioned, Ty Gibbs. And maybe we get a little lower ownership on Ty Gibbs just because people are just kind of turned off by him. But starting 22nd, this is the range. I mean, he had pretty decent in practice. He was kind of just 5 lap, 10 lap, 15 lap averages were all around the same, right around 13th or 14th. So, and he's in the Toyota. He's in that Joe Gibbs. He's with those other guys with Joe Gibbs. So should have pretty good equipment, should like this track. I think getting over on Ty Gibbs is perfectly fine. And you got another guy right there, Priest. Now, you said you don't necessarily like the Fords here, but you got Priest starting 19th. I think his ownership will be on the lower end, but I have no problem pivoting off of some of these other plays and using Priest. If you don't like Gibbs, kind of using Priest. I know he starts, just 3 spots ahead, but I think he's a worthwhile pivot. I think you're going to wind up with quite a few drivers in this range in most builds. You mentioned Suarez. I think Suarez might be the most popular pick over Hocevar in the range that we're looking at here. Starts 32nd. I think he winds up being in the 30% plus own. Maybe he might be the one guy who breaks out of that maybe 25% range. So I like Suarez quite a bit. So I think Suarez is probably one in this range. I think the best cash option for sure. But these guys we're going to get ownership here, on a lot of these guys. And I think this is going to be the range that we're going to have to nail. I think you're going to wind up maybe, you're going to have 3, 4, maybe 4 of these guys in most lineups, I think. And then I think the bottom half, when we get to kind of the dregs, there's a couple of dregs that are worth playing. And I just don't think we'll get much ownership down there. So it's going to be really packed in, I think, with the high price guys. And then we have a little bit of a gap in that 9K range-ish, kind of 8,500 to 10K. And then these 6,300 up to, 8K range. I think that's where we see the bulk of the action.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right there. And you kind of made the mention of Zane Smith, it's starting 27th, no Gregson starting 30th, right? Like this bleeds into value range, right? Where the mid-tier becomes the value range, kind of where it just kind of blends in a little bit. And you have a lot of options, right? Lots of options where I think we're going to have a unique winner up top. I mean, I don't think that's too bold of a take today, but I think the 100K will be one solo. And I hope it is because of this mid-range, right? You're going to have a ton of options. You're going to have many paths to go. You mentioned Priest being just a direct pivot, which is going to be more than fine. His odds are 35-1. It's incredible to me where, it's like the first time we've seen this all year where Priest is 35-1, but like Ty Gibbs is 75-1. Like it's the first time where like those odds feel flipped to me, right? Like it feels like it's been the opposite. But this is where, just talking about Ty Gibbs, right? Where I'm kind of on him, but like the betting market might not be, right? But Priest, he is getting, he's got better odds to win this race than Josh Berry, Bubba Wallace. I mean, if you just go through it, I mean, he's got basically the same odds as Bowman, Busch, right? So there is some, I would say, extra win equity from him. And Jake, this is a funny one because I'm going to ask Stats this right now. Is there value in a Bubba Wallace plus 4,500 ticket tonight?
I think there is. I actually like what Jake was saying. I was reading his messages here as well. I think he makes a good point with Reddick being as fast as he was in practice. Yep. That may be a boost for Bubba. I think it certainly is. And and who, if Denny's not in there as well, Denny with the, I'm sure, he owns obviously he's part owner in that team. There may have been a lot more focus on the 2311 cars there with Denny saying, "Hey, if I can't win this one, let's get one for the team here." So, I think Bubba Wallace is kind of sneaky, and I think he's sneaky not only in betting. I think he's a pretty good option in the DFS world here because starting 12th, it's not ideal, but I think if he wins this race, he will be in the winner. So I think you want to get a little exposure. And as I talked about, we've got the other guys in this range just look much better on paper. Most of them starting 20 plus. And then when you get down to like Suarez, who's starting 32nd, and we didn't even mention Corey Heim, who starts 33rd, that's where the ownership's going to go. I think it could be sneaky with a Bubba Wallace. I like that pick as sort of a low owned leverage type of play with a driver who I think Jake's right, can be really fast here today.
Yep, very much so. I mean, the Reddick speed 2311 might have brought a nice package to the table here, so it should be a fun watch for them. Anyone else in the mid-range that you want to touch on? Because I know we have baseball here soon, so we don't want to go all the way up to the hour. But anyone else in this mid-range that you want to jump on before we talk about value?
Maybe this. It's eluding me now. Someone got penalized today.
Dinger.
Yesterday. It was Dinger, right? That's what I thought. That's what I'm looking at. So, he's almost unplayable at this point, right? Because he's going to be – it's a pretty severe penalty. Is he starting a lap down?
I don't know if he has a drive-through. I know he had to go to the rear. Let's go ahead and check this out.
Well, his car chief also is fined and suspended or something. Yeah. I mean, whatever they
changed something like after like pre-qualification, like something like that. The number 16 will perform a stop and go penalty after taking the green flag. So that does sound like a lap lost. And this is a track where, guys will get lapped within that first stage. Dinger will be kind of out and about, maybe until stage 3 even. He would have to run pretty pure, maybe take a wave around or whatever. But tires matter here too. So it's not like you can just stay out there on 30 lap old tires and expect anything to stick for him. So, I mean, that stop and go is going to be pretty important, no doubt.
Yeah, whatever ownership, it should just destroy his ownership, and that's going to just jack up some of these other guys in that range. You got Gragson, who starts 30th, who that's not a bad play. And again, if you were going to play Allmendinger, now getting down to Gragson at 6,400, a lot of people will be making that shift. And then Zane Smith at 6,300 starts 27th. I think both viable options down here. So, I think we've got, they haven't, if you look at Zane Smith, I mean, his average finish has been 16 at the intermediate tracks, and Gragson 18th. So not terrible with their starting positions. If we could get something, in the low teens for those guys, one of those guys, I think at that price tag winds up getting him in the winner at 6,400 or 6,300. So I think both those guys become interesting. And again, Dinger, you've got to just X him out. Can't use him. So keep that in mind when you're making your build, especially 150. If you're not kind of paying attention to that, I would X him out today.
I agree there. Good point on the Dinger penalty. Certain 17 stop and go penalty probably ends up a lap down. I mean, his odds to win, he could get up there eventually, but it's like, hell, he could even find himself in a world of hurt if he tries to get that lap back too early and all of a sudden he's 2 down and stuff. You never know here at Nashville. Value time, lots of value. Nemechek starting 36th. He's going to command probably the highest ownership below 6K. Todd Gilliland might be right behind it. I think they're going to be 1 and 2.
Yep.
Zane Smith, Noah Gragson, kind of just above that 6K line, are going to be popular clicks as well for the value. Not too high owned, but decent enough to where they're worth a mention. Then it kind of dips off a little bit, and this is where I'm just going to go ahead and bring it up. How many times have I just not got to click Ty Dillon? Like, I've been clicking him, starting 31st this time. Wouldn't shock you to see a top 20, right? Like, it just wouldn't at this point. Absolutely going to love Ty Dillon as well. Riley Herbst, he's a Toyota. He hasn't been great this season, but he is a Toyota. He is starting 37th. If they have speed, he's got to have speed. He's 2311. So it's like, look, if you like Reddick and you like Bubba, And Riley Herbst has got to be there, but he's starting 37th. So, yeah, the value range seems simple to me. I like those 6 drivers that I mentioned. I don't think I would really want anyone else. I mean, anyone that you're on to here in the value range?
Yeah, I mean, no one different than you. I think you're right with I think Gilliland and who am I forgetting? Who was who was the other guy that we're looking at in this range? Hold on. Oh, Gilliland and Nemechek. Yeah. Those two. Yeah, I think you're right. I prefer Gilliland over Nemechek, but it's marginal. I think that's where the bulk of the ownership will come in on this sub 6K range. I don't see a lot. Most of these other drivers are just going to get sprinkles and people just kind of throwing them in. You never know. I mean, your boy SVG might be the 3rd best option down here. His practices were decent. Certainly in this range, he had the best practice times. He was in the low 20s in this range, so he was better than everyone else sub 6K in practice. So if you want to throw him, he may be my 3rd, got like a far 3rd, because I think Gilliland and Nemechek are clearly the top choices at this level. And then you're just kind of taking some guesses down here. And I don't necessarily know if anyone is going to be necessary at a salary underneath Gilliland, or underneath Nemechek at the 5,500. So if you're looking to kind of X out, gray it out, I think you can get rid of just about. So I think you can get rid of everyone from Stenhouse down, other than Gilliland and Nemechek, and I'm okay with that. If you wanted to really narrow it down, if you want to just add in a couple more drivers into your pool, then I think I agree with you. I would add Ty Dillon, Herbst, and SVG into that mix, and Austin Dillon as well. So if you want to just kind of add those guys in, but I wouldn't play any of those guys more than 4 or maybe 3 to 5% on any of those guys, and I'd be up in the 20s, low 20s on Gilliland and Nemechek.
Yep, I do agree with that. It will be a little bit more on Dillon and Herbst, just because I think the stud combos you can get with them when you dip into like that extra 600 and stuff is nice. I don't feel like stats. Like I know I mentioned the mid range being like very solid, especially for like diversification and stuff. I don't feel like I'm missing out on any like stone cold locks this week, right? Like if I'm playing like 3 studs and 3 values, right? Not that I'm doing it, but it's like I feel like I'm not losing like a nutted play in the mid range, right? Like Hosfar is going to be a great play, but it's not like I'm giving up a surefire 50 piece. Like last week, you were giving up Ross Chastain starting 40th, right? Where if you wanted to deviate from him, like you were staring at giving up 60 points, and there was some other drivers starting in the back there too. Like not every one of them panned out.
Keselowski.
Yeah, and like not every one of them panned out, but it's like that no driver in this field as of right now is guaranteed 55 plus, right? I would say that like that's the thing. Will there be drivers who eclipse 55 plus? Absolutely, but no driver is guaranteed that as of right now. And I do think maybe mixing it up with the studs a little bit more than usual, that might be a path I go, just because if I go 3 studs, 1 mid range, 2 values, like I can make it work. And I don't feel like I'm like, oh man, I really wish I had Barry this week, or I really wish I had Priest, right? I'm like, hey, like this is the risk I'm taking, and they can get 15th, and that's a good run for them, and they're not going to be in the winner, right? Like that's what you're kind of just risking it, right? Like I do think there's going to be a variety of builds. That's why I think it's going to be a solo winner up top. Is that I can see I can see 5 mid range and 1 stud kind of hitting there too, like right, like. You have that ability to get as different as you want on this slate. I do think that DraftKings not only did a great job pricing the slate, but also just the way the grid kind of formulated, which might make a case for Larson. I think if there was a guy for 55 plus, it would be Larson, who has got the highest odds of probably for sure hitting 55 as long as he doesn't wreck out. So maybe I walk back my word stats. That I will be
maybe get a little bit more Larson.
Yeah, like I'm just going through it right now because like. Look, I if I can fit in, I'm really high on Ty Dillon, like just for what it's worth. Like okay. I'm going to be very high on Nemechek and stuff. I'm going to be very high on like those guys, but like I can play Dillon and Nemechek and be like, oh, this is fun. Just same way I can play Nemechek and Gilliland, but it's like, yeah, I will have more salary than I think I expected coming into the slate. Larson, come on down to the above the field here. So. Yeah.
I mean, I kind of agree with you where I think it's going to be unique. I think where we see the uniqueness comes in that mid range that, like we were talking about, that kind of 6,300 up to 8K.
Yeah.
That's why Bubba Wallace is kind of, I'm getting a feel for him. He just feels good to me because I think he can win this race. And that's always a tricky, that 12 starting spot is always tricky because you're not close enough where everyone expects you to dom and you don't have a ton of place differential. So it's not ideal, but I think today, I think Bubba could even he definitely get you some dom points too. I mean, listen, we're playing GPPs, we're playing DFS. We want the play of the guy with high upside, and sometimes that brings a pretty big floor. I think there's a pretty good floor here for Bubba as well, but I'm fine with that in GPP. So I think he could be a sneaky option, maybe my sub 20% flyer that we like to take. We don't have the Sabre projection, so we kind of have to we're gonna have to go on our own and what we think.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to have to guess on the ownership a little bit more than usual. Uncle T, no SVG this week. No.
I think we never fully like him, but I don't think you have to actually, like, he's not going to be in my pool.
Yeah.
But if you want to add him into your pool, if you're looking to get a little bit wider, I think he makes the cut as like my third or fourth guy down under 6K.
All right, I like it. You didn't give away your 20 sub 20%, right? You didn't do that just yet.
Well, I just said I think Bubba's going to probably be that guy, so I'm going to go with. But it's an unusual pick because I'm usually, you're usually either looking for someone to that you think up front that a lot of people won't take. I think you can go with like a Christopher Bell. If obviously he led 131 laps last year, starts 7th, another tricky starting spot in the Toyotas. I think that's not a bad option either, but I'll go with the other. One and with Bubba and the 2311 team, and I'll take a shot there with that 12 starting spot of him with a strong finish.
Yeah, that I like that with Bubba. We're gonna go with a pair of Toyotas here because I never thought I'd be saying the stats, but my driver of the week sub 20%. I don't think he's gonna reach 20%. Ty Gibbs.
I think it's close. I think he's close. I think he's right there.
I think he comes in under it. We'll have to think of a punishment, right? Like I'll have to do 20.
I'm actually gonna say he goes over, but I think 20 is like the number, and I don't think it's over by a lot. I'm just gonna, if I had to put a bet on it, at even money, I would say he goes over, but not much.
I think we have to do like you have to shotgun a beer.
That's fine.
If he comes under, you have to shotgun a beer. If he goes over, I'll shotgun a beer to start my Sunday next week.
That's fine.
Yeah, I was going to do that either way.
So next week I will not be on the show next week.
Oh, you're killing me, Thad.
I know we're going. So we've got UFC. We've got Newark UFC in Newark next week. So I'm going to be out in New York and then seeing the family and stuff. So I don't think there's perhaps we'll see. Perhaps I'll be able to. I got to see where I'm staying. I think I'm staying over by my mom. So if I'm over by my mom, I'll do it remotely like I am this week again. So maybe I will. Maybe I will be on.
How can you miss the Firekeepers Casino 400 stats?
That's a tough one to pass up on. But no, I will make every attempt to get there. It's just with UFC, sometimes these nights get a little crazy, and those UFC events don't end till late. But we'll see. I'll make it. I'll try to be good and make it back to Brooklyn and do the show from there.
So I think either way, though, we have to start our Sunday with a shotgun of the beer, even if it's virtual, right? Like
that might be helping me with the night before. So that might just get the
keep the hangover away a little bit longer.
Yes, I will let you know. I think I got nieces and nephews playing baseball and softball too, so I might have some. I might be going to some games. I'm not sure what their schedules are like, but
more beer.
We'll find out during the week. I can shotgun beers at the game and show the kids. A lot of these kids don't know how to do that. They're only 11, so I could teach them.
That's the best time to drink youth sports. All right, so
yeah, you ain't kidding.
For Stats and we appreciate y'all for watching. My driver of the day was Ty Gibbs. His was Bubba Wallace. There will be more stuff posted on the site here shortly. Tony, Big T, has all his stuff posted for today already. Should be a fun race. We thank y'all for watching us. Have a great rest of y'all's day, and good luck in the race tonight. Bye-bye.